Yeah. This is The Wire. Not This Is The Wire, but I'm doing a video on The Wire. This is season 1, episode 8, titled Lessons. So, I usually talk about the episode in reverse because it's the last thing I watch. So the end is the last thing I watch. So that's why I talk about that first. And by doing that, I can't remember the beginning. This episode, okay. So the one thing this episode is really doing for me is, in your typical like crime drama, you will see the crime itself and how it unfolded from different perspectives. I think that's the basic amount of information you'll get on a particular case, on all the cases that are involved in the story. Okay, but this show takes it a step further, because not only are you involved in the lives, personal and work, of the individuals trying to solve the case and individuals involved in the case on the other side, you also get a look at what that means for society and from a morality point. You get a look at all of that. This episode actually has a guest appearance by Donnell Rawlings. I guess he's famously known as Ashy Larry from the Chappelle Show. Of course, I've grown to like him more than just a comedian because of his influence in podcasts and things of that nature, and his own podcast, if that makes any sense. But anyway, getting off track. So with his character coming into play, I can't remember if it was the last episode or this episode. Probably this episode. He's introduced as nothing but a small-time crook, basically, right? No big deal. He's introduced as that, and he disappears. And then he pops back up later on, like not only in the mix, but deep in the mix. He's traveling with a large amount of money, and okay, his destination is to a senator or something like that. So, but the origin of the money is from from drugs, huh? They are not holding back anything with this show. They are going straight to the thick of it. Not only have they introduced the viewers to the effects and giving a possible scenario as to how somebody involved in the game could be so affected by what they're seeing on a day-to-day basis that they turn to the drug that they're peddling, and they've done a good job of showing that. They've shown the relationships between individuals on both sides and even in between, and now they're taking a look at the amount of corruption that's involved in this game that these guys are playing. These guys and these gals are playing. They've taken a look at the corruption. Now, it makes me uneasy because I know it's a reality when you're dealing with this amount of money, right? But it's something that's really never brought to the forefront. And if it is, it's whoever's bringing it to the forefront is labeled as insane or something like that. Like, there's no way a politician would do that. There's no way an elected official would do that. There's no way that somebody with that position of power would be able to stoop so low, or even in some cases lower than the individuals that they're trying to fight and lock up. It's like, no, they're still human beings. I think that's the major takeaway from this. They're showing that, I can say it a million times, and maybe I get more articulate one day. They're showing, simply put, they're showing that everybody has a price, right? Some people's prices are just more than others. You know, from the person that's on the street looking for their next high, their price just may be, I don't know if it's a woman doing a sexual favor, if it's a man stealing something. That's their price. They take that and use that for what they want. The guy in between that's selling, maybe he just wants to take care of his family and have respect or something. That's his price. the guys on top, maybe they want to be in control of a city or something. Maybe they want to have the ultimate amount of respect. Maybe they want to have the unlimited amounts of money. That's their price. The police officers, what's their price? Knowing that they've done good and put somebody away, that's their price. Maybe being a guy who's built a reputation on being a hard nose or some rough and tough individual inside the police force, that's his price or their price. An individual who's an elected official or who's in a position to, I don't know, oversee things, their price may actually be something that's considered paper and coins. That's their price. Everybody has a price. I think this show is doing such a great job of illustrating that. But let me try and get an overview of this episode instead of just talking about what I'm seeing as I'm watching, because it's so good. I mean, it's hard to even explain how good this show is up until this point. I mean, it's because I don't know what's going to be in the future. I haven't seen future episodes, but it's fantastic up until this point. I mean, it's I want to say it's eye-opening, but it's not necessarily eye-opening, because, you know, at least in my case, I know some of these things exist, but the way it's played out, I think it's just that's their thing. That's this genre, or not genre. That's this series' high point, is the way they play things out. It's so good. So in this particular episode, I guess I'll focus on the cops. You have an individual who happens to be out. Okay, they do this twice in this episode. So I'll get to the McNulty and then his partners slip up later on in an episode. So he's out for McNulty. His character is out for, you know, time with his kids on the weekend, and he sees somebody who's part of the case. So what does he do? He sicks his kids on them to follow him and see if they can gather any information. He's already trained them up on it, right? They do it. They get a license plate from it, and he does his police work, and he follows up on this license plate, and he sees that this guy who's pretty high level in this organization is taking community college classes on business. And it's like, I didn't expect to see that. There's no way I expected to see that from a show like this. There's no way I expected to see that. It just further illustrates the point that I had some beautiful line that I came up with to describe it. Let me see if I can remember it word for word. Your ignorance, whether it be in the streets or the business world, can be used as leverage to aid in your downfall. So that means if you don't know what you're doing and somebody else knows more about what you're trying to do, they're going to have control over you to push and pull you in any direction and shut you down. And he's trying to be a step ahead of that by going to business school, but he's applying it towards an actual business. But those same principles can be used in the street life. And I just thought it was interesting that would even be showcased. I was just like, thank God, because I know there's a perception of people who are involved in illegal activities as being oafish and brutish, and I guess both of those words are describe the same thing. But you get the idea. Now later on in the episode, we take a look at his partner. His partner is dabbling with infidelity. They don't go into too much detail why he wanted to do it, but they give some basic answer for why he feels the way he feels. He follows through with that. Now McNulty gets a call later in the night about his partner. He gets there, and his partner is committing infidelity. He has committed infidelity, but in the process, he's so tied up into his work and his career, he decides to burn his clothes. Now, it seems funny enough, but as he's muttering off sentences and words in a drunken manner, he's making such a great point. He says, I have to get rid of the evidence, because he has committed a crime against, I would say crime against God. Don't commit adultery, I guess. So he's doing that, but he's trying to cover his tracks, which I thought was so interesting, and he would tie that back into his job. You know, maybe, yeah. Those are the two incidents that I'm talking about. Now, this might be a longer video because I'm really hyped on this dang episode. So, I will touch on D, the character that I keep giving this whole backstory every time I bring him up. By now, I think everybody should know who D, that character is. I'll talk about Omar in a minute. So D's relationship with a girl from the club that his relative owns, the big boss, is getting more interesting. I'll leave it at that. I mean, I don't see, they haven't given too much about it, but they have hinted on her possibility of being a bigger character in the series. So I'll take a look at Omar now. Omar is an interesting character because he's taking vengeance on somebody who committed the deed against his lover. He's taking vengeance on him and wounded another guy. Okay. But all the while, he's still willing to basically, he's still willing and able to become a snitch to get more justice for what happened to his lover. But he's still out there putting in work in the streets. And while he's there, he's noticed that, you know, he's kind of buddy-buddy with the police, but he's gathering information the same way that they would be gathering information, because he's trying to get to the root of the problem too. He's at war with these guys, right? Because he stole their stash house, they retaliated, he comes back, they come, it's, you know, wrong, two wrongs, in this sense, two wrongs don't make it right. It goes on and on. Heard that in a popular song, but it makes so much sense. What else happened in this episode? Then he showcased more relationships between officers and yeah, they showcase more episodes. In this episode, they showcase more relationships between officers. For the main scope of thing, I mean, if you look at the scoreboard, I think who's up right now. I think the coppers, the police have more victories on their side than the bad guys. But the bad guys are able to create moves after they pivot from being blindsided. They're doing their part too. I should say that. So I wouldn't call it even. I would say the coppers have an upper hand as far as the episode's concerned. And, you know, I can't wait to watch another episode. I'm going to do something I've never done. Well, I've done probably one time prior. If you like this particular upload, I have more uploads about this series and, of course, other videos. So check those out.